Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I drop my kid off at school and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Good morning, listeners. I hope that you're having a lovely day. It is a chilly November 8th here in Chicago, and the sky is a kind of gloomy gray that nobody likes. I'm a little behind on my publishing schedule this week. I have a show that I recorded Monday, but I didn't actually send it out, so I sent it out this morning. I have a show I recorded yesterday, Wednesday, which I'll send out this afternoon, or tomorrow probably. And then I have this Q&A show, which is this week's episode. And given our small listener base, it's not surprising that we don't have a ton of questions for the Q&A episode. We have one. Thank you very much to that BoardGameGeek listener who posted this question, so I'll be happy to answer that. I think that if I don't continue to get questions on a regular basis, I may look for something else to be the regular episode for week 2 of the month. So if you have ideas about what that might be, or a particular segment that you'd like to hear me do on a regular basis, let me know. All right, so questions. I guess one question could be, what's another segment you could do instead of Q&A? All right, so the question was, what's the craziest thing I've seen happen on a walk during one of my podcasts? And I will confess, I haven't seen very many crazy things because I'm walking in a neighborhood without too many people here, and so it's pretty low key in terms of how to what kinds of things I might see. But I've seen a couple things, so I guess I'll offer a top three weird things that have happened on my walk home during my podcast. So number one is the crazy kids running stop signs. So there was one time I was coming back, and there's a group of kids were shouting a conversation about film criticism. They were talking about some movie. I can't remember which one. I remember thinking that it was the kind of movie I watched when I was a teenager, which is to say, pretentious film snob teens would have watched. So, I don't know, like 5 Easy Pieces or something from the 70s, Chinatown, something like that. Anyway, these two kids, I would describe them as freshmen or sophomore in high school boys, were biking along, kind of wild boy style, shouting at the top of their lungs, running stop signs, which is the part that as a parent concerned me. I'm like, dude, you guys didn't even slow down for that stop sign. What if there's a car coming? Because they also didn't look like they were looking for cars. But then they were arguing about Chinatown, I would say. And using lots of profanity the way that teenage boys will do, I guess, as a way to prove how cool they are. So that was one weird thing, was the film critic biking, swearing, stop sign running boys. The second one I actually included in the episode as a after note. I got pooped on by a bird. I was walking along and bloop, right on my shoulder, down my shirt. I wasn't really that wild and crazy, more gross, but I had to finish my walk. I was like out in the middle of my walk with that happen, so not much I could do except to keep walking. Reminded me of a story my dad told me when he was in the Navy. They had gotten called for inspection, so they all had to put on their uniforms and go line up. And they just lined up, and the guy was doing a fairly thorough inspection or something, so he had a pretty long line of dudes he was inspecting. And the guy next to my dad on the end of the line, like a big buzzard came by and just crapped all over the guy, like shoulder and head, just a huge crap down the guy's. And the drill sergeant down at the other end of the line basically shouted, "Well, you've got till I get to the end of the line to go change." And the guy had to go sprinting off to get into his other uniform or whatever. I always take those stories a little bit with a grain of salt from my dad, but that's one of my favorites about bird pooping on people. So I would call crazy incident number 2 when the bird pooped on me. And the most interesting thing that happened was that I walked by when they were filming a series of commercials. One of the houses in our neighborhood, I'm not sure how or why they picked it, but was chosen as a location for a commercial for the bulk store Big Lots, where they sell things in bulk. And they were filming a commercial there, so there are all these lights and tons of stuff in the driveway, and there were these furniture moving trucks. I think it was a furniture commercial. They were selling furniture at Big Lots, maybe. And this guy, whose job it was clearly to put stuff on the truck and take stuff off the truck, was standing there. I said, "Hey, are they filming a movie there?" He said, "No, it's a commercial for Big Lots." I said, "Oh." And he said, "We're filming at 3 houses in the neighborhood." And it was like 85 degrees that day or something. It was not a fun day to be moving heavy boxes, and he was just drenched in sweat. And he said he didn't have to go to the gym that day because of the workout. And I chuckled with solidarity on my way home from my professor job. So that was the Big Lots commercial, which, now that I tell the story, is not a very exciting story, but the walks I've taken are fairly boring. I don't record my podcast while I'm walking downtown. I have this 20-minute window, or in this one it'll be about 15, walking home from either school or the train where I get off. I also do have a 20-minute window walking from the train at Union Station to my work. But there's a couple things that make it really difficult to record a podcast there. One, I'm constantly surrounded by people. So if I'm talking, I'm going to seem like either a weirdo or really annoying. It's always busy. So just from me performing it, it would take a level of a disregard for the people around me, both in terms of not wanting their ill will, but also just not wanting to ruin their day by having this bozo talking really loud for no reason next to them. But then the other part of it is that it's really noisy downtown. There's cars everywhere, honking, people talking, street noise galore. And while part of the shtick of this podcast is that it is a little noisy, it's not meant to be crazy. It's not meant to be difficult to hear, which I feel like I'd have to either shout or cut a lot of the podcasts if I were to record downtown. So I always record in my neighborhood walking home, but that means nothing interesting happens here. So thanks for the question. If you have more questions, I'm going to try to do this episode at least one more time. We'll see if we get some more questions. I only put out a call out like a day before I recorded too, so that didn't help in terms of trying to get questions. I'll try to do that a couple weeks ahead this time to shake the bushes a little bit more. But you could even think, like, while you're listening now, go on in and post a question. I will certainly file it for next month. On the other hand, I should also start thinking about other regular episodes I can do, and maybe make the Q&A the fifth week episode. Every now and again, I have an episode that I was going to do as a 5th week, but so far I haven't had to do that. So thanks for listening. If you have questions or comments or crazy things that have happened to you while you're out for a walk, hop over to BoardGameGeek Guild 3269 and let me know your story. In the meantime, I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Thanks for joining me and for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.